Hey, hello, Mbali.
Hi,
Welcome.
Nancy.
Yes, welcome to the Art of Storytelling. Thank you for agreeing to be part of this talk as we talk at the water cooler in a sense. Okay, so can you just tell me where you are and share a little bit about what's happening around you?
Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me here. It's such a privilege to just be able to have meaningful discourse, right?
Mhm.
I'm currently in Bangkok. I've been here since July 2023. I would say a number of reasons pushed me to be here, some personal and some just mostly beyond my control, to be honest. Um, I'm glad that it worked out for me to be here. I've been able to explore a previous career, if I can call it that, because before leaving, I was in China. I was like doing AfroAsian, and then before doing AfroAsian, I was teaching, and we'll get into all of that later. But now I'm back in front of the camera, and that's an interesting path to be back on. So yeah, that's briefly,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. So I wanted to take us back. So as far back maybe as where you started, so where you're from, what your family background is like, and where you grew up, and where you went to school, university, things like that.
Okay, cool.
Mm.
So I'm South African, and I was born in the capital city, which is now Tshwane, but known as Pretoria back then. When I was born, my parents were still young people that were starting out in life. So I stayed with my grandparents while they were trying to figure it out. And then obviously they would come and see me, and sometimes my mom was there. Sometimes she was like at a job in another part of town, and she would see me on the weekends. This was life for the first 5 years. So I was grandpa's little baby girl, right? So everywhere grandpa was, I was. He took me everywhere. He took me to kindergarten. He was my person. My grandma was a nurse, so she kept like the stable job. And my grandpa was like a construction worker, gardener, so more freelance. So he had more time with the grandchildren and
Mm.
to help around the house and this kind of thing. And so that's like my foundational years. Later, my parents would like get more stable. Then we moved to a different province. So Pretoria is in Gauteng, and the new province where my parents moved to when I was about 5, 6 is Mpumalanga, to a small little mining town called Secunda. Like most people don't know about it, but they mine coal there. So most of the people that work there work in the mining industry, and that's the reason that the town was formed. But then
Mm.
obviously, teachers will be necessary, all that to build that community. So people are teachers, miners in the mining industry, etc. That's where I spent the bulk of my childhood. And that's where I grew up. That's where I went to primary school. That's where I went to high school. And it was a very quiet, small town, so very suburbia, not a lot of traffic lights, just like a more than your
Mm.
town. So I would say in many ways I'm a small town girl.
Yeah,
Um,
you kind of
and then
perfectly. Yeah.
yeah, and
Mm.
then my parents would later divorce. So my biological parents got divorced when I was about 12, 13, and then I was in a single parent household with my mother and my younger sibling at the time, and life just kind of continued. My mom would remarry when I was about 10th grade,
Mm.
10th, 11th grade, she got remarried at that time. And then I left the city when I graduated from high school, went back to Pretoria, which is where I was born, to pursue university at the University of Pretoria. Um, in my last year of high school, on Christmas Day, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. So by the end of my first year, my mom was passed on, and then it was just my stepdad now, my sibling, and the child my mom had was my stepdad. She's she was a year old at that time. She's 21 now. She turned 21 this year.
Mm.
So yeah, in a nutshell, that's like my upbringing. I graduated from university, went to Johannesburg. where I tried to figure life out, and there was a lot. That's like a whole up and down journey.
Mm,
I tried to, how can I say, I wanted to not die with my dreams, and
mm,
because I felt like in many ways, I watched my mother speak about how she's gonna wake up, and when she wakes up, she's gonna do this and she's gonna do
mm.
that, and she just never got the chance to do those things. And so, as a 21 year old, I was like, no matter what I do, even if I fail trying, I'm going to not, I'm just gonna go for the dreams. So I made a lot of mistakes, and most of what I was going through was fueled by fear as opposed to wisdom. And so that came with quite a few mistakes.
But I
Uh,
guess through mistakes, you were getting to wisdom in a sense.
exactly, I
Mhm,
suppose, you know.
mhm,
So yeah,
mhm,
that's like up until adulthood, and I started modeling when I was in university. That helped me to for my tuition.
mhm. So,
Uh,
so would you say then this thing of resilience has been part of who you are from a very early age, that you were having to deal with so many different things, being separated from your parents at a young age, moving to another city, then, your mom remarrying, getting used to another, your divorce and then remarry, and then she passed on. So there's so much that you dealt with at a very young age.
mhm. I think when it comes to my early childhood, I think it felt more safe, more secure because I was surrounded by my aunts and uncles, my grandparents, my cousins, and
Mm. So
so
extended family.
yeah, so it didn't feel there wasn't a big void. There was community, and I think that's so important, right?
Mhm.
And so it didn't really feel like I was missing out on anything at that time. I think maybe the emotional family instability, or me having to really reckon with the fact that life is real and things
Mhm.
happen, came around the time of my parents' divorce. I think that was kind of a reality check. And then obviously from then onwards, life just continued to require tenacity. And I think what I'm most grateful for is the fact that my mother introduced me to my faith, which is Christianity. And that has always been my grounding place, even when I've lost my way. Um, there's always that light to return to. And I'm really thankful for that because it's really been the saving grace
Yeah,
all the
to be
way.
grounded in something, to know, yes, even if life comes with this, you have this place to go back to. Yes,
Hmm.
yes, yes. So then I'm going to jump forward to when I met you. So when I
Hmm.
met you, I think I met you through a mutual friend, Shanika. So
Hmm.
I'd come to Shanghai, I think just to do something, and she was in Shanghai, and she said, "Okay, there is this, there's going to be this dinner and this thing for AfroAsian, and it's going to be about art. Why don't you come?" And I said, "Okay, I can join." And we came, and I think I had a really wonderful time. At that time, you had done this thing, having different artists and poets share, and we were put in groups, and we did some workshops we did at the time, and then we had some South African food, something like
Hmm.
that. But it was really,
The
really
but
interesting to
your
see.
first workshop was it the arts shapes perspective workshop?
I think it was. But
Yes.
I think being in Hangzhou, I'd never seen anything like this. So I
Hmm.
was really, really intrigued and said, wow, I mean, this sort of thing is happening. And for somebody, I think you're quite young and you were putting out this kind of energy in Shanghai. So how did that get started in Shanghai? How do you get to Shanghai?
So when I came to Shanghai, my life in South Africa was really just not going the right way, I felt. And I really needed a restart button. I needed a place to just find myself again and not lose like the little bit of hope that I still had for life. And I wasn't actually trying to come to China. I was trying to go to Russia.
Russia
But
to
anyway,
China.
to be honest with you, I was trying to go anywhere but home. I just wanted to leave. And it's almost like I tossed a coin. Whatever bites, I could have ended up in, I would have said yes to the first job. to be honest. That's what was happening. So I get an interview, end up at a training center like most of us do. And I start working at a training center and I'm there for a year. At the end of the training center term, I moved on to kindergarten. During all that time, I'm engaging with people from different works of life from all over the world. And I kept coming into contact with these interesting perspectives about where I'm from. And some of them, a lot of them inaccurate or incomplete.
Mm.
And I wasn't mad about it. It's just a matter of people aren't exposed to this thing because, mainstream media doesn't necessarily promote a certain picture about certain parts of the world for whatever reason. And then also back where I was from, my friends and family and other people online, oh, you're in China, a lot of interesting perspectives that weren't necessarily my experience. Like, no, this is not what happens here. And so I saw a gap there to create an educational something. So at first it started off as a blog where I created a platform and there were bloggers from Southern Africa and other parts of Africa. And then I got a few expats and local contributors to share on different industries like finance, tech, lifestyle, etc. Working abroad, South Africa, just kind of a cross pollination of information
Mm.
that didn't have an agenda to it except for people to just know. So that's how it started, and then I was using my salary to pay the writers.
Wow.
And then I continued with that, but then I saw like an opportunity to create something even more, something people could experience, something people could feel and touch, something, something that could grow in that sense. And then that's when the idea of AfroAsian started. And so I launched AfroAsian with the idea of let's use arts and culture to learn, to share, to collaborate about these different worlds that are often so grossly misrepresented.
Mm.
And yeah, in 2019, we had our first event in July, and it was just Hello AfroAsian to introduce the concept, and it was surprising how many people showed up because I think I was only expecting like 20 people. I didn't really go hard on the advertising. And what happened was the people that were there were like, oh, we're having such a good time. They started calling people and then people started arriving. By the
Mm-hmm.
end of the night, there were like 60, 70 people just
Wow.
chilling in and out,
Mm.
I was like, whoa, did not see this one coming. So that was nice. And then later in the year, we had our first really official event where it was like a Afro-Asian reflections, where it was designers from Africa, from Asia, uh, sharing their journeys and what inspired them to get into that space as a bit of a mini fashion show and a market, and it was a whole thing. And then from that, all the others grew. So that's how AfroAsian started.
Yeah, and I think you could feel that it's different energy. There was always that energy and that space for learning, that it wasn't just you were just coming to just have fun, but it was actually created for learning, for dialogue. So people could
Mm,
talk, people could share. I think I came to another of your workshops where you had somebody else focusing. He was from South Africa. I'm talking about language and storytelling as well. Those were
mm,
some of I thought that okay, yeah, to hear from other storytellers to see that, I thought
mm.
that was great. So how did you feel when you had to I mean step back from that?
It absolutely shattered me. It absolutely broke my heart because I think I poured so much of myself into AfroAsian. Everything I did for AfroAsian, I did from the core of me. I really believed, in the mission of AfroAsian, and I funded everything myself. There was no investors, there was no
No
sponsorships.
sponsors.
So everything that you saw from the video production to the photos to getting the guests there, all of it was self-funded. And um, most of the time I broke even, but it wasn't like I wasn't doing it for profit necessarily initially. And I knew that the beginning of it would have to be at least break even for each execution, which I managed to do most of the time. So it was really heartbreaking to have to let it go because I had such high hopes for AfroAsian, and it was only the beginning. But the things that were like hurdles for AfroAsian were, I would say, oh, I didn't even realize my glasses are here, were COVID. So
Yes.
shortly
COVID.
after our launch in 2019, June, July, we had two executions, and then there was COVID,
Yeah.
right? 2020. Fine. COVID wasn't a deal breaker for me for AfroAsian because I just thought, we'll eventually get out of this, but how can I diversify what I'm offering with with AfroAsian as outside of like really big events, like fashion and this type of thing. That's when all the workshops, like the ideas for the workshops solidified during that hibernation. And then when the doors opened, then I did things like, art shapes, perspectives, and I did the storytelling workshop, and I did like all the other workshops, and I did fashion boundaries. Everything was birthed during the hibernation and found expression afterwards. I think and then at that point, it became very difficult for me to juggle. Hi, welcome.
Hi, Jennifer. Welcome.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, at that point, it became very difficult for me to juggle teaching and doing AfroAsian because the planning was so detailed. I wanted everyone that came to feel like seen, and you'd have your name tag, and it would be like such a
Very
detailed thing.
professional. Yes.
Yes, and I was doing the manpower of creating all of that, the printing, the designing from posters, everything. I was doing it, so it became very difficult to juggle the two. And I made the decision in 2021, September, to go full-time with AfroAsian.
So that was your business. That was where your income was coming from, AfroAsian.
I mean, I made the leap so I saved for emergency fund savings, and then I made the leap because I'm like, this needs my undivided attention now. It's growing at a momentum where I'm not going to be able to see where it can go if I'm also teaching. Either my students are going to suffer or it's going to suffer. So it was the end of 2021, yes, that I decided to take the leap. And at that time, the business had been registered already. And so it was just a matter of me hiring myself as a full-time employee. And then I would do just part-time work for income whilst we're really getting into. But then what happened? What happened in 2022? January, February, Shanghai got locked down.
Shanghai got locked down. Yeah. So